All right, Gio Reyna. Let's get to it because I think a lot of people want to know our takes on this.
And we'll what do you think our take's gonna be, dude?
So, if anyone's unaware, just to catch you up to speed, Gregg Berhalter did some sort of summit, a leadership summit, which I don't know why we're not getting invited to these, but he did.
Wow, dude, what a clear misstep by the bookers of that.
So he did a leadership summit, and he was asked a question, essentially like, what is an example of a time where you had a job interview when you had a challenging point and you really had to show leadership, and now's
when we should specify he could have talked about any other moment
in his entire
literally
career. Anything.
You could have mentioned anything, dude.
He could have been like, look, in 8th grade, I had the opportunity to take care of the class gerbil, and it was a leadership opportunity for me.
He could have said the day before the World Cup, and whatever you said here, it would not have caused this media firestorm.
So he was asked this question, and he responds with, look, basically, obviously paraphrasing, but like, look, I ain't talking about anybody specifically, but even at this World Cup, I had a problem with a player where we were talking about having to send him home, and it was
he's like, let's just call him Gio Reyna.
Look, I know, sorry for being so discreet and being so secretive.
Yeah. My vagueness is not to disrespect the room.
So, this was supposed to be, quote unquote, off the record, and U.S. Soccer put out a statement being like that was expected to be off the record and all this other stuff, and everybody went blabbing as you not a surprise because he put that information out into the world in the middle of a sort of controversy, and so people obviously put 2 and 2 together. And
let me just say though, it became a whole thing. And then Gio Reyna had to come out and say, he had to give a statement where he was like, I was under the impression that this would stay behind closed doors or, off the record, as I was told by the coach. There was this whole thing about a 12-player tribunal vote that the players then held Gio Reyna accountable during his apology for his lack of effort. Also, the thing that was mentioned that Gio Reyna said a couple days before the World Cup, when he was called, he was told he would have a limited role. And then that's why I guess he was frustrated, not really putting in an effort in the scrimmage or whatever, the friendly that they had. Look, here's the truth. They're both wrong and they're both right, but they're also both more right than wrong. The truth is, if you tell a player you're going to have a limited role, it could be a test to see how you react. And Gio reacted badly.
Yes.
You don't go in there and not train your ass off and not try to earn your spot. I get why you're upset. I get why you're frustrated. You're also young, so these are all common. And from the conversation, so now we also have to take Eric Winalda's word at value, right? And say, maybe he was talking to Claudio Reyna, and maybe Claudio Reyna was upset. If he was upset, then maybe he was getting in Gio Reyna's ear as well. Could he have been a bit of a bad influence on his son and sort of the energy he brought or the attitude he brought into training? Possibly. Also, you have every right as a coach to say something anonymously, and then if everyone else on Twitter is like, oh, I know he's talking about Gio Reyna, that's not your fault. That's not your fault. You could have talked about anything else, bro. You could have talked about getting your kid to take your dog for a walk.
When you say it's not his fault that people knew exactly who he was talking about, you don't put any blame on Gregg for that?
No, I don't think you needed to bring up this exact topic, but it wasn't like he was asked, name a player that acted badly at the World Cup. He was talking about a leadership summit. He was talking at a leadership summit about being a good leader and how a player turned things around. It's actually a positive story, but everyone's attacking hey, now we know what happened with Gio, which was a real question mark. Well, at the beginning of the World Cup.
So I'll start with the aspect of leadership. This is very poor leadership, right?
How? I need to know how.
Because for him talking about it publicly is poor leadership, right?
How he's not talking about it publicly. He's saying it in a vague manner that protects the player, which, by the way, he lied to the media to protect the player.
So
he said, yeah, the dude's got hamstring injury. And he's like, no, I don't, bro.
So why?
You just ain't giving me minutes.
Why lie then and not now?
He didn't have to lie. He didn't name the player. He said it in a vague way, and everyone else named the player.
So it's obvious we knew who it was, and Gio had to put out a statement because he was dealing.
It wasn't obvious. We knew who it was most likely.
Stop it.
But what I'm saying is, he didn't even give any clues as to who it was. He specifically said, and the story, if you really read what he said, hey, this player came in, bad attitude. He made sure he apologized to the player. Hold on. And then he turned things around, and it was fine. That shows good leadership. It shows how he handled it as a team unit, not just by himself. He told the players, hey, this guy's going to apologize. Let's, it's up to you to decide whether it's good enough or not. That's all great leadership.
That's poor leadership. That's poor.
No, what part of it is poor?
That's poor of him saying to put it on the other players to decide if their teammate goes home or not. That is poor.
How is that poor leadership?
Because he's the coach of any team is not. It's not a democracy. You're putting players in a position to decide the fate of their teammate, which is not fair.
No.
That is not a good position.
Fair.
That is not a good position.
It's 100% fair. It's also how it happens in most sports. And second of all, how it happens in most major teams. Your veterans, your leaders, the reason people are picked as captains, the reason people are picked as leadership, leader roles within the locker room is because that's part of what they do. The worst, you're not hiring 23 individual or 18 individual people. You're hiring a team. And under no circumstances is it a good idea for all of a sudden every player to walk in that room and find out one of you guys got sent home and then have to be explained by the coach. That's something that has to happen as a unit. That actually shows exemplary leadership. That shows the type of leadership that you should have in armed forces, the type of leadership you should have in major corporations, the type of leadership you should have in teams. That's exactly what you're supposed to do.
There's certain decisions that I would agree that, of course, there is a certain sense of veterans having more experience and helping younger players, but not to decide whether a player stays or goes. That's like saying should this person get fired just because they work in your same department. That's an absurd decision to make.
If Gio stole from a player, if Gio did something that goes against the code of ethics, absolutely. You send that player home, you explain to the team. But Gio not trying in training or not trying hard affects who?
The entire team.
Okay, the team, not the coach. It's not a code of ethics thing.
Of course it affects the coach.
So the team, especially your veteran leadership, absolutely should have a part in that. 100%. Now, if the coach says he's going home, the players shouldn't be allowed to be like, no, coach, blah, 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 unless there's a serious decision made that it's better for him as a player to stay on. We're going to take him under our wing, unless there's a way to convince him otherwise. But if something happens where the coach is like, I can't have this ethically, absolutely goes home. But dude, you're way wrong. You got to let the team be a part of that, especially your veteran leadership. No one's asking Haji Wright
at the
what
end,
he thinks.
It's on. Gregg is the coach.
You're DeAndre Yedlin.
He is the leader of that team. He should make that decision of whether a player goes home or not. The other players have other things to think about than to decide if their teammate should go home or not. That's absurd.
Ask a professional player. These are parts of the team unit. These are some of the decisions a team need to make as a squad. It's not up to the coach to make these unilaterally.
That's literally what they get hired for, to pick who gets to go.
Why would he bring it up at the leadership summit if it showed bad leadership? It doesn't make sense.
I think it was an example of poor leadership not a way to run a team. And
look, we're gonna get tweets about this, and we're probably gonna get comments. We'll make a clip out of this, and people are gonna comment underneath it. And I'm gonna tell you something. If you agree with Christian, you show bad leadership. All right, that's just it.
It led to it's who on that team now, after Gregg said that and made that public of something that was supposed to be internal, in-house, and nobody was who on that team is going to be like, yes, I want Gregg back to be as my coach, now knowing that I can't even trust that anything that happens, even if I make a mistake, that he might go say it at some other leadership summit.
Now the leadership summit is the issue. Look, he didn't say it with names. That's it.
He left crumbs for literally everybody. This idea that he didn't say anything and absolving him of some kind of responsibility is crazy, Alexis.
This is no different. Other coaches have done this before. Sir Alex Ferguson used to tell stories without explicitly saying who it was. And the media, of course, would run to try to figure out who it is. This is the type of thing that happens. You talk about a leadership situation. He could have mentioned, look, he probably shouldn't have mentioned something from this World Cup because of the amount of tension that's already on it. But if he would have done this in 2 years, even if it was still the coach, it would have been less of an issue because people wouldn't have chased the story.
He was more.
It's fine. This is part of what you do. And I'm not even defending Gregg because I like Gregg.
He made the decision when Weston McKennie, when he violated COVID protocol and didn't call him up. And now things are different. Now he wants to say what happened. He kept his mouth shut and didn't say exactly what Weston did. Everybody was asking.
That doesn't have anything to do with this situation.
I'm just saying it just shows that there's no pattern. You're saying that it's a good form of leadership or that he didn't say anything and he was vague or whatever. He did that with Weston. And Weston apologized and he brought him back. Yes, but he never said publicly what Weston did. He just said it was disappointing and blah, blah, blah. But for this, he said the details of what happened without saying the player, and everybody knew exactly who he was talking about.
He didn't specify details either. He said he wasn't performing at a level that was good for himself or his team. Again, all of this was pieced together by the media. He didn't throw anyone under a bus. He didn't. In fact, he hasn't made another statement going, no, Gio's wrong. He sat back and taken the L. In fact, when he told people were spitting on this guy's name when he said that Gio was had a tight hamstring, and Gio was like, "No, I don't. I'm good." Which I get why Gio was saying that. I'm actually also on Gio's side in this. I think both of them did exactly what you're supposed to do. But now we find out this dude lied to save face, so Gio wouldn't have any extra questions on him. I mean, what more do you want from this guy?
Well, more than this. I'm not taking anybody. I'm not on anybody's side because I think Gio did do something wrong here. I think, look, his behavior is deserved of some criticism. So it's not about taking anybody's side, but it is.
I mean, how this situation's been handled, not necessarily the whole situation.
Yeah, no,
I don't care about what happened in camp. I'm talking about how this situation's been handled.
If something is. If there's a problem within the team and it is handled within the team, then we shouldn't know about it. And
so you don't trust the captains to help you make this decision. You don't trust your veteran leaders to help you make this decision. You don't think Messi gets a say in what's going on in the Argentina camp when a player's not playing up to snuff. You don't think Cristiano Ronaldo, him not, but you don't think,
you're talking about,
you don't think Luka Modric gets asked by the coach,
yes,
hey, this guy's not good. What should we do?
The legendary player on the team.
We don't have one leader on this team.
But for you to ask a bunch of players that are like 19 to like 25 to 28 years old,
they're part of the team.
To say, do you want this player on the team? And you all have to decide if this guy gets to stay or go.
His actions affected them. So you ask them, are you comfortable taking this dude
makes
back?
That decision.
No, dude, I honestly.
The coach.
Only
that's
someone
why he
like
gets
Jose Mourinho
hired for. The other players do not get hired.
No, it's not. He gets hired to build a squad, dude. He gets hired to put together a tactic. He gets hired to make sure the players know those tactics. That's something you make. That's a decision you make as a team. 100%.
No.
Every time. If I was going to fire somebody because they lied on some type of sales sheet or something, I'm not asking anyone. But if somebody was a little too drunk, well, I guess not drunk because that's a HR issue. If somebody was, maybe annoying or something at a holiday party or something, we would come together as a team. Or if somebody said something that was slightly disrespectful, not HR related, but just put the team in a weird position, that's when we would come together as a unit and say, we need to talk about this as like a family, quote unquote. That's how you build camaraderie.
Let's all get this guy off the island. Let's decide.
But they didn't vote that.
No.
They held him accountable, which is good for his development, and they told him he can't have a second chance. Imagine how much more bonded that squad was after that.
That is,
you're
him
wrong.
Holding them their teammate accountable is fine. I'm not saying that that's an issue. I'm saying that if you lose that chance. If it is true,
you lose that chance doing it your way.
It is,
because you're saying the coach makes the decision, yes or no. So all the players know is Gio's staying. He says he's going to change, or Gio's gone, and players like, whoa, you need to give him another chance. You lose that opportunity doing it the way you're talking about.
What opportunity to what? Hold him accountable?
To get that second chance, to build that camaraderie, to build that bond even closer. You don't have that chance. Because if the coach walks into training one day and says, we send Gio home, the team will be like, for what?
Well, what about, so I don't know the details of it, but Ben White apparently also got sent home. There wasn't, I don't know what happened.
We don't know because, Gareth Southgate's showing bad leadership by not telling a leadership summit.
Right.
He didn't even get invited to the leadership summit.
I think there's different theories of how to show leadership. This isn't how I would show leadership by giving players their teammates the opportunity to send a player home. That is putting one player over another. And there's no way that Gio feels...
Okay, hold on. Just elaborate on that part. How is that putting one player over another?
Because you're saying that the other players get to have a say whether their teammate stays or goes. So wouldn't Gio feel a little bit inferior if that is the case? Do you think that?
No, because now you have a democratic vote. Everyone on the team
it's not a democracy.
Gets to vote.
It's not a democracy. No business is a democracy. That doesn't exist in this place. Look.
When you build, one of the things I learned when you build a sales team is in these types of situations, that is a democracy. You do get a chance to vote. Not every manager was like I was, but it's absolutely, I think the best way to manage is to say, hey, this is something that's not affecting me. It's affecting you all. So you tell me how you feel. Do you think he's shown enough attrition? Do you think this man can change? You're playing. You can get injured. You're the one who might miss out on an opportunity to play. You're the one who's not going to get minutes. You're the one who's not going to get on the pitch. You tell me. Imagine the person who's behind Gio who sat there and heard that apology and said, you know what? I do think this dude has a chance, and I do think he's going to act differently. And they voted to keep him on, knowing that still meant that person got less minutes. That is how you build a true fucking team, not sitting there and walking in one day and going, I sent Gio home because I didn't like how hard he was playing. You got to let the team have a say.
A lot of players didn't like what was going on, and they voiced that.
But the overall voted for him to stay and told them to his face.
But the point is that they shouldn't have had. If this is true that they voted, they shouldn't have had to vote. That's all. That's the point I'm making.
Not only do I think it's ridiculous, I don't think you've given me any reason why that's the right way to do it.
I'm not saying
if that's the way you would manage.
It's just I'm just saying there's no right or wrong way to do it, and this is why.
No, there is. Mine's the right way.
Of course, yeah. Okay. Why didn't I see it that way? Stop clapping for him.
Eagle.
But no. To me, this just completely defines the future for the as far as head coaching for the U.S. men's national team. Gregg, there's no way he can come back.
He's getting an extension offer.
I don't think so. It's
already.
I don't think it's been rumored. Blah blah blah. I've seen all that. I don't think it's happening. Not after this.
I don't see a way you don't give him an extension.
At the comments.
At least for 2 years.
Look at the comments under Gio Reyna's post. Literally all the U.S. play.
And how many of those people are good enough to be men's national team coach? In those comments.
So what does that mean? Are they good enough to be coach?
Are they? They're not coaches.
No, I'm saying the players, Gio's teammates are in the comments praising him for his statement, where he's essentially shitting on.
They both did the right thing. He needed to come out and tell his part of the story. Now that his name is being dragged in the mud again, not by Gregg Berhalter, by the media. Gregg Berhalter certainly opened the door for it, and that's where I think you probably shouldn't have done that. But I think Gio Reyna had every right to come back and go, here's what happened. The positive is, the best thing you can take from all this is Gio fucked up. Gio admitted to fucking up. And the team said, don't worry about it. We're going to give you a second chance. And he clearly changed after that. They both did the right thing. The worst thing Gregg Berhalter could do is come back and clap back at Gio's statement, which he hasn't done.
The players to me, are siding with Gio, not Gregg.
They're defending Gio, their teammate. They're not siding with Gio.
I don't think so. I'm telling you what's happening. I don't see this working out for Gregg, and I don't see him coming back.
I think Gregg has run its course. I think Gregg Berhalter, I wouldn't mind if Gregg Berhalter was the manager for another cycle, but there is the sense that Gregg got the team as far as he could possibly get him, and maybe it's someone else. Gregg did what he was supposed to do. When Gregg Berhalter was hired, the goal was to get these young players to develop as a team, as a unit, which I also think allowing that vote does that as well. And also, you want to institute a system that we didn't have before. People forget the team we had around Christian Pulisic at that Trinidad and Tobago thing. That game, that whole system, that whole style of play, those types of players, all done. Now it's a young squad. You need to develop a system. We have that. We understand the way we want to play. We have players that play that style. We understand what our deficiencies are. Is Gregg Berhalter that guy for that next cycle? Probably not. I'm looking for someone like a Jesse Marsh if he would want the job, or possibly a Jim Curtin, who I think understands how to get young players to play at a level a little bit beyond what we think they can do. Clearly, he's done it with Philadelphia Union year after year after year. Now it's we need the type of manager that can win those big games. Is Gregg Berhalter that guy? Possibly. I think he has it in him, but I think we got what we wanted out of Gregg Berhalter. Now it's time to try someone new that can take that next step. So I don't think this looked bad on Gregg Berhalter. I don't think this should weigh heavy against the decision whether or not to keep him. I think if you can find a manager that you think makes this team take that next step, then bring that guy in now, especially as he'll have an entire 4 years to earn the respect of the team, to develop, to let's see what they can do in a Gold Cup. And then when the World Cup is in Canada, US, and Mexico, we'll have a superstar squad all in their prime and a manager that can help them take that next step.
That's it. It'll be a superstar squad, according to Alexis. We're ready. We got that.
Solved soccer for you, by the way.
Let's all push for Zinedine Zidane as the USMNT coach. Okay, he's available.